fantastic to be at an event like this with Jeff and everybody else that's put this opportunity on. So, it's definitely an honor to be around people who really want tomorrow to be better than today. And what we're going to talk about today is how movement is medicine. Something that's very dear to me, something that resonates with my personal mission statement to help as many people as I can move more and hurt less. And I see how movement is medicine every day within my practice, whether it's helping people overcome injuries or prevent certain things. The reality is that about 95% of anybody that I've ever seen in my practice really did not need to come and see me in the first place if they had taken care of their bodies in the first place, doing fundamental things to keep their bodies active and keep promoting health within their bodies. In fact, movement itself is one of the most important components to lasting health. That's not to take away from the importance of nutrition or the psychological or social aspects of health. There's a complexity of variables that are involved with how somebody gets to become healthy. And movement is really one of the fundamental pillars of that. It's really beneficial to every cell in your body. If you go through this entire diagram, whether it's improving lungs or improving cardiovascular ability, making your bones stronger, being able to improve muscle and tendon, even improving brain function, all are related to movement. It helps every single cell in the entire body. It also helps you combat your pain monster. And yes, everybody has a pain monster. And this is some of the more, like the latest and new research out there with how movement can actually help somebody overcome chronic and recurrent pain. And that's where we're using movement a lot now to be a natural first line of defense in helping people build stronger bodies to overcome things like pain. And it really comes down to the brain. Some of the things that we're now realizing with movement and how it improves brain function is incredible. But beyond just, how physical activity improves mental capacity, helps prevent neurodegenerative disorders, helps improve memory, learning, all of these different things, it is actually remarkable to see some of the changes in the brain related to movement when we're trying to overcome chronic and painful related conditions. How many people in here have had, at any time in their life, low back pain? I mean, look around. Look at the hands that are up. This is one of the most serious things affecting healthcare today, yet it's not talked about very often. We talk about heart disease, diabetes, and those are all very serious things. But things like low back pain are also serious. And what we now know is when you hurt your low back, you don't just hurt your low back locally, you also create damage to your brain. That area in your brain representing your lower back starts to become diminished. Your brain stops seeing your low back. And it's not just a low back thing, it's also, whether it's knee pain or shoulder pain, your brain starts to fade away as far as its ability to communicate with that area. And that is really helping to create this vicious cycle of why things like low back pain or knee pain or shoulder pain become chronic and become recurrent. So when we're trying to talk about getting people active and moving, one of the things that can affect that is if they're in pain. If you're in pain, you're less likely to get up off the couch and go and do something to promote your health. The idea that movement is good for your health is not revolutionary. I know movement it's the big buzz thing right now. Wearing shoes that are for barefoot with all the little toes showing, all of these different aspects where we need to improve movement, we need to do movement evaluations, clinical practice. It's one of the most common things that we see in sports-related medicine right now. But it's not revolutionary, it's evolutionary. We've been designed to move. Our bodies have evolved with the need to organize more complex motor control and movement patterns so that we could move around and find food. So if movement really helps with every tissue in your entire body, and it's something that we have evolved to need to do to maintain health, then where is the disconnect between why we're not being active now and the need for it? I mean, there's so many different reasons, But let's take a look at a little story. This is the earliest form of fast food. You know, as we evolved, we had to survive our environment, right? We had to find food, or we had to prevent something from eating us. So we had to be very physically active. And our ability to find food was way down here, and our ability or need to be active was way up here. And as we evolved through time, we still had to work really hard to get our food. There was a lot of physical labor. So, you know, the ability to get food came up a little bit, but the physical activity related to it still, you know, was quite high. And then even through the Industrial Revolution, you know, the physical aspect of working really required a lot of physicality. We're, you know, still engaged in a high level of activity throughout the day. People were walking more, moving around. Food, you know, yes, was a bit more abundant. Physical activity came down a little bit, but it was still above. Then we progress into today, and the amount of screen time that people are getting, and the amount of time that they're spending sitting on their butts is putting physical activity way down here, and now we've never had more of an abundance of the ability to get food. Now, obviously, we've heard from so many speakers today of the importance of good nutrition. You know, stop eating frankenfoods. You know, it's very simple. If it doesn't run, fly, swim, grow on the ground or in the trees, don't eat it. But it's also very difficult to implement. But this type of thing is putting us in an environment of threat for our health. We're writing checks that we can't cash when it comes to our health, and it's affecting so many people. In fact, just sitting here listening to my lecture today is potentially damaging your health. Hopefully not because it's boring or you're not going to get something from it, but the fact that you're a sitting duck, the fact that sitting now is the new smoking, right? All of the physical aspects of how it's damaging your health are quite significant. So taking micro breaks throughout the day is a huge step forward with preventing some of these things from happening. The options that are out there, and this frustrates me so much because we really have funneled a lot of healthcare into two particular paths. You can either try to medicate your way out of a condition, or if you let it go long enough, we can try to go in and do, you know, a Lego approach to fixing a structural thing. So whether it's degenerative knee or back, and these two types of approaches, the reliance on this, I'm not against, you know, surgical or pharmaceutical intervention. They have their time and place. But a reliance on this is actually creating a large problem. And it's a problem that is significant. Did you know that muscle and joint-related disorders are the #1 cause of disability worldwide? Think about that. Muscle and joint disorders are the #1 cause of disability worldwide. And as I mentioned, we talk about things like diabetes, heart disease, obesity, but we rarely talk about aches and pains causing such a huge burden on healthcare. And for me, my viewpoint is things like physical inactivity, they're not risk factors. They're actually a disease entity itself. It's a deconditioning disease, and one that we need to pay more attention to. The alternative to that is using movement as medicine. Really figuring out a way to get people active so that they can engage in a life of health. How do we do that? How do we use movement to heal the body? Well, it's really about creating balance between the gross motor skill muscles and the fine motor skill muscles. A little glitch on the slide there. But really our bodies are made up of two particular sets of muscles. Muscles that are meant to move things. If I pick up this chair and throw it into the audience, those are the big gross muscles. And then we have these smaller, finer muscles. And those are the ones that are meant to control movements and help stabilize the body. Those are the ones that get damaged when we injure things like our back or our knee. Our brains turn off those muscles and they're not capable of functioning properly. So through exercise and very targeted movements, that's what we try to turn back on. We try to get the brain seeing that body part again so that that line of communication gets reinstated and we start to experience health in those tissues again. The difference between gross motor, as I said, is things like picking up a large weight. Well, that's what most people are doing when they're going to the gym. You know, they get an hour or they get 40 minutes to go to the gym, they're picking up large, vigorous things, and there's a time and place for that, and there's a necessity for it. But a lot of times we're negating the fine motor skill components. the ability to really get those smaller muscles doing what they should be doing. And when we activate those smaller muscles by focusing on skill-oriented movements, we're actually working to reprogram the brain through processes of neuroplasticity. I mean, neuroplasticity, that's a whole other topic, but that is really the future of physical and rehabilitation or rehabilitative medicine. Most of what we know as far as what we do in physical medicine will come from a better understanding of things like neuroplasticity. When I get people in practice, when I talk about the ability to go through things like just standing on one leg, I get people in practice, they try to lift one leg off the floor and they can't even hold it. I mean, we live a linear life. We walk in one direction, we move robotically into another direction, and we only work certain key muscles. We walk on hard, nondescript surfaces, and we're not challenging some of those key muscles to maintain our balance. And one of the things I actually get my patients to do that you can start doing, because it doesn't take up any extra time, is tonight when you're brushing your teeth, stand on one foot and brush your teeth. Now you're doing a skill. You're doing something where you're trying to control a movement pattern and you're trying to work the balance muscles. It's a great way to get some of those smaller key muscles that are designed and needed to help stabilize your hips, your spine, everything, to get them working. And you don't have to take extra time to do it. Here's some other advanced exercises. You know, we create targeted exercise programs to help people use movement as medicine, to help them overcome pain. It doesn't take a long time. It takes about 15 minutes a day. The idea that you need an hour of exercise is basically been manufactured by the commercialization of health and fitness. It's not something that's based on how your body responds physiologically. And one of the earlier speakers had commented on it's good to have movement throughout your day, and that is definitely a piece of advice that you should take. Little movements, because there is a difference between fitness and health. I deal with some of the top professional athletes in the world, some of the fittest people on earth, and some of them are not healthy. Yet I also deal with some people who are very healthy, but they're not very fit. So there can be two different things. Here's another example, and you'll see with some of the advanced exercises, there's a commonality where it's body weight oriented, you got to learn how to use your body, and the ability to maintain balance. Here's another one, because there's muscles on the sides of your body. Jeff was saying he was introduced to his obliques, and everything we do is kind of in front of us. Here's some comments from some people that have, experienced some of the benefits. Didn't think the exercises were going to work because they seem so simple, right? Once again, in the beginning, seemed so simple, but now they're able to stand longer with less pain. It's really about activating, once again, those small little muscles. Sometimes you won't even feel them working, but they are if you're targeting them appropriately. And I'm going to leave you with two of my common quotes that I give every single one of my patients who walks in my practice. One is that the best form of healthcare is caring for your own health. I think if we start following that motto, we're really going to start creating some changes in healthcare. And the other one is that it's always easier to stay out of trouble than it is to get out of trouble. So we need to invest a little bit in preventative aspects. I know prevention is not sexy, but it is a necessity. Thank you very much.